Hey guys, wanted to make like a quick update on the EK guide. Obviously I made the EK guide before 3.1 came out, but when we had the patch notes. So most things are up to date. Obviously there are a few new items in 3.1 that I wanted to go over. Namely Lightpoacher. Everyone's seen me using Lightpoacher in pretty much every build. But the reason it's so strong, especially for EK, is because it's got exactly the same scaling, right? It's a physical spell projectile. So exactly the same scaling as EK, and EK is the only other spell that has the same scaling as well. So especially once you get level 53, it's extremely good to level in the Harbor Bridge area. This is now actually better than Blood Aqueduct. I still recommend Blood Aqueduct at the start of a league because you want to farm a tabula, but after that, I've been managing to get from level 53 to 70 in around an hour. And you can also use Lightpoacher on pretty much any class. I briefly want to go over that because I managed to do it on my Juggernaut. Obviously Juggernaut has very little damage. So what I did was I picked up Fury Bolts. I used a Winds of Change gloves. It's a unique gloves with projectile damage. And a Career Ward for more projectile damage and projectile speed. Jewels that you want on EK and builds using Lightpoacher is I like using Darkness Enthroned. And it's really nice to have one like chance to gain onslaught on kill, like one in the belt, and you have it up permanently. Life obviously, and then you have a lot of other things that are good. Physical damage gained as extra fire damage when killing, really good. Physical to spells is the best you can get. Pretty hard to get double of that. Crit multi, cold to spells, lightning to spells, even fire to spells, like anything to spells is good. Life, attack speed if you killed recently to shield charge faster. Also Brightbeak is obviously really good as always. You want to get a high shield charge attack speed. And there is a lot of stats you can get on jewels then with all of those. And you could get crit chance as well if you feel like your crit is low. As for gems in the Lightpoacher, I've been using crit or multiple projectiles, volley. And then when I've started out at level 53, a lot of the time I'll use ink crit strikes if I've already got the inevitable judgment. If not, I will use controlled. Later on, when you are full conversion and doing it in maps, I use From Sorrow or From Burn and Fist of Lightning. The reason for that is you don't need to worry about Fist Reflect on maps then. Some of you might have seen Turkey Cat not having Fist of Lightning, not having full conversion, pretty much insta-killing himself in maps. Lightpoacher is insane damage as well. It's probably actually more damage than EK. Obviously it doesn't help out that much with bosses unless you have all breach because you do not have charges at the boss, but it is insane damage. As for gems in the EK, a lot of the time, if I'm focusing on just using Lightpoacher, like if I'm solo, I'm just doing lowish maps, I want to keep Pierce because you want to get as many Abyss Jewels in your skill tree as possible. Which would also mean that this is really good on Scion, where you can grab all the 3 middle ones easily, like for not that many points. When I'm actually scaling EK, especially if I'm feeling low on damage, something I've been enjoying is dropping the Pierce and getting Hypothermia. Now that doesn't actually show up in your tooltip because it requires the enemy to be chilled. So it'll only show up, you'll only get your true DPS in Path of Building. But Hypothermia is a really big damage boost. Obviously everything's always going to be chilled when you have so much cold damage. And I do Hypothermia instead. And what I do is I have the Pierce Jewel that you get in active. No, actually you get it from Utula, I think. A green Viridian Jewel that gives you, you pierce one enemy. I don't exactly remember the name on it, but I'll include it in the overlay. That works really well, especially since Lightpoacher pierces by default. That also means you cannot fork and you cannot chain it. On the Lightpoacher, you don't want 2 sockets because that means you would lose 1 support gem. And these don't need to be linked, it could be unlinked. As for other things, Impulses is really good. It increases damage if you're shocked recently. Because you're using Fist to Lightning, a lot of your damage will be lightning, so you're always going to be shocking because you're critting. You have such a large amount of lightning. Increases the effect of your shock, which will be divined higher as well. And if you're doing a Status Avoid ailment map, then over a few hits, they're more likely to be shocked. Like they're not going to avoid both your shock and your Herald of Ice Shatter. So you're going to be leaving less corpses. So especially 60% ailment maps are pretty good. You don't leave that many corpses. Helps a lot against like DD boxes and stuff like that. Weapons, if you are struggling on damage, a lot of the time, especially when I'm solo, I'm still going to be using a Brightbeak. But now with the shaped scepters and shaped daggers, even axes really, you can get up to 40% physical damage added as extra lightning, extra cold, as extra random. And the extra random one doesn't show up in your tooltip, by the way. So, not even on Path of Building, because it calculates after every hit. So it can never be calculated beforehand. But yeah, like these are insanely strong. Way better than like 70 spell damage and stuff like that. It's like hatred. And I have some crazy ones that I'm using on all my characters. This is my old characters Zizaran DD. Some of my old DK characters I've sold the stuff on standard by keeping this character intact, so you guys can look at like one way of doing it and all the gear. So hopefully that is of help. Taste of Hate as well, really useful. Again, like if I left anything out or if there's any questions still, drop by my stream, twitch.tv/Zizaran, and ask them there. Just figured I'd record this before starting stream because there's been a lot of questions about Lightpoacher and stuff like that. Hope this helps. Hope you all had a good Christmas and Happy New Year. Try to die less than I do.